Thanks, Kevin. Guys, this is Cecil, your technical AE over here at Spatial Integrated Systems, and thank you again for attending this webinar where we're covering what's new in Solid Edge ST7. So what are we going to be covering today? We're going to be covering all the, or most of the major functions within the new Solid Edge ST7 that are going to accelerate your 3D modeling processes. A couple of really cool tools that we want to highlight: our 3D sketching tool, which is new, our flatten anything, part to sheet metal, things like quick shapes, improved holes, and hey, what about auto coordinates dimensions? Lots of cool stuff that I want to go over, but I do have to cover a few more slides. So, a couple of things to highlight here. We now have a 3D sketcher. It's been a long time coming, and this one is powerful. Very respectable interface, very powerful, very clean. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Besides the 3D sketcher, we've also adopted a new way of dealing with splines. How often have you created a tube and you modified your spline on that tube, and your tube just changed lengths? And we can't have that, especially whenever we're trying our best to make tubes fit within the material that we've already purchased. So now we can do a fixed length curve. So if you adjust the end conditions of your tube or of your spline, the spline stays the same length, but the shape changes. So you guys are going to like that one. Well, besides those two guys, this one I kind of really like. This is the flatten anything command. They call it create blank from 3D model, but I first heard it as being flatten anything. And what can it do? Well, it can flatten anything. Most people that want this functionality are forced to go up to a higher end CAD package, ones that cost above 10 grand in order to solve this issue. But now we've introduced it into Solid Edge, and this is going to be a game changer. Lots of people are going to say, hey, I don't have to spend that extra money. I can do it inside Solid Edge now. I hope you're going to enjoy playing with that one. Well, so we've had patterns before, and we've had recognized holes, and we've had recognized patterns. But guess what we have now? We have patterns of patterns. Just one more tool to bring us to the point where we can bring in a model from anyone else's CADs and make modifications. So this guy right here is kind of a tool from the past. We are now reintroducing quick shapes. Well, we're introducing quick shapes. You might have seen this kind of like primitives way back in the day. However, what we're doing for this is that we've noticed that engineers, whenever they start out a part, they're normally starting out with cubes or with something similar, maybe even a sphere. Try drawing a sphere, not a spear. Try drawing a sphere and see how quickly you can get one out using quick shapes, in opposed to drawing a profile and then rotating it. Nice tool here. So we've talked about a few big top of the mountain type of features, but here's one that engineers ask for, and sometimes they get more than they ask for. We've now included the capability, not just the capability, we've actually integrated in KeyShot. KeyShot is that rendering program that lots of people talk about. It's the one that produces the .bip files. Be careful, you guys. If you're going to be playing around in here, you might end up being in the marketing department and not in the engineering department. This stuff is great. The photos, the photorealistic renderings on here are absolutely astounding. So what about measuring type tools? What about inquiry type tools? If you've used Solid Edge in the past, then you've probably used their measuring tool. The measuring tools were sufficient. They did some awesome stuff, but they were pretty complicated. Now inside Solid Edge ST7, we now have a heads-up graphical 3D measure tool. It is quite potent. In other words, what can it do? Well, whenever you take a measurement, it'll stay up on the screen for you. That way you can reference the measurements that are derived from what you click. I use it quite a bit. It's nice to take a measure and not have to worry about it going away. Holes. Whenever I do training, often I'll have people ask, well, the hole command is great, it's functional, it does everything you want it to do, but what if we want to know how big our holes need to be for clearance for threads or clearance for bolts? In Solid Edge ST7, we now include the ability to add in thread clearance based off of sizes. So you can put in a close, a normal, or a tight fit. Jason at Ditch Witch, down the little blurb at the bottom, he said it very nicely. It allows us to focus more on design and less on determining proper clearances. So maybe you don't have to pick up that sheet of paper to figure out what the clearances are anymore. I like this little tool right here. This guy right here gives us the capability of enhancing our material library. Our material library now has the capability of doing categorization and sorting and being able to not only do the little hatching as well as the rendering for the models, or I should say for the materials, but we can also bring in material information from the web, from people like MattWeb. So what this means is that you can, instead of having to go look everything up, you can actually bring in their material. I'm excited to use this one. Okay, so this little guy right here, duplicating components, it was a flashy one that was done over at Solid Edge University, and I'm sure that everybody really enjoyed seeing it. What's the significance on it? Imagine having to insert multiple parts many times, having to do all the mates and constraints and what have you, and you're thinking, wow, I just wish it could just do it on its own. Well, now it can. With duplicate components, we can rapidly insert parts, and well, I tell you what, I'm going to be able to show you this in the demo. You're going to really like it. The 10 times faster assembly design is no joke. So with all the 3D modeling processes, what about some 2D stuff? In 2D, we now have fully automatic coordinate dimensions. Fantastic stuff. Instead of us clicking on every single circle, we can actually grab the entire view and pull off all of our dimensions, all of our coordinate dimensions in one shot. And the dimensions are associative to their jogs. So if you move one jog, all the jogs move. What about this thing called reference text? If you deal with GD&T, then you understand the concept of datums and GD&T annotations, where the datum indicator, or the letter A in there, has to update all the different annotations. So if you change the datum, oh my, you've got so many other annotations that you have to go update. Now we don't. We can use reference text so that if you change the datum, then all your annotations automatically change. That'll be a big time saver. Okay, so we've talked kind of about some of the cool, neat tools, but what about the interface? If you saw it cranked up, if you saw Solid Edge start up in Solid Edge ST7, you'll notice that we do have a color change, which is great. I like the mint green and the mint blue going on there. The way that we access templates is far more efficient. Our access to our learning tools is right there on the screen. The ability to get to the community support, if you're not doing that, for goodness sakes, please go out to the community support pages and investigate. There are lots of people out there that do some of the same jobs that you guys do, and whenever you have an issue, you can share. It's a great learning tool, a great way of communicating new ideas. Well, after you start in a part, you're going to notice a couple of changes within the UI. First one that you're going to notice is down in the bottom right, you'll see a cube. This quick view cube is a great way to navigate. Instead of having to do all the control R, control T, all your shortcut keys in order to spin your model around, you can actually do it from right there on the screen, and it stays associative to your view. So I enjoy that. I enjoy it quite a bit. You will also notice that as you draw lines, Now there's more feedback whenever it comes into length and angle of lines. It's going to be something that you're going to appreciate right off the bat. So as you go to click things, you're also going to notice that you have a little bit more feedback than what you've had in the past. Now this is customizable. You don't have to watch the videos every time, but give it a shot to begin with. As you move over a button, you're going to get the tooltip. The tooltip will have some help on it, and it will also have a little video. So those of you that spend quite a bit of time talking to your neighbors about, hey, this won't happen, or I should say, this tool won't work for me, or how do you do this, or how do you do that? What you're going to find out is that with the new introduction of the enhanced tooltips, you're probably going to see a little bit less of that and a little bit more of people figuring out things on their own due to the help that's there at their fingertips. So with just these few topics here, what I'd like to do is I would like to go ahead and start a demonstration here and show you some of this stuff. So let's explore that 3D sketcher. I've got an assembly here, a fry cooker that's missing a part. It's missing a guide rail, and I'd really like to go ahead and create that part and use that new 3D sketcher. Let me adjust my visualization here through some configurations, and let's do a little bit of edit into this subassembly. And not only that, but we also have to create and place. I like my options. Those are nice. Grounded. Oh, you know what? We need to choose material. And this gives me an opportunity to show you the material table. Notice in our new material table, we can group and categorize our material. In this case, I'm going to reach over here to our favorites and recents and pick out a stainless steel. Don't forget, though, we can add and import stuff too. So all this stuff looks good. I'll check him off, and I will go ahead and save him in a nice place. As you can tell, I've done this demo before, so I've got a series of stuff that I'm building upon. And sure enough, I go ahead and create a part in place. Oh, did it disappear? No, it didn't disappear, but it gives me the opportunity to show you the previous level, and gives me also the opportunity to point out to you that, hey, you need to be using peer locate because it's some awesome functionality. Okay. What peer locate does is it allows me to reach down into my assemblies and use geometry, almost like include command. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yep, I would like to go ahead and start, and I'll start with a 3D sketch, and that 3D sketch will do pretty fine right there. So as I pull out my line here, I probably want to align myself, and I'll use my triad here. My triad, it's very functional. It allows me to see what direction I'm going in. In this case, I want to hit my Z, and notice how my triad now works with me. I'll put in something like, what do you think? Probably around 25 or 26 or so, and that's fine. And now I'm going to use my quick cube down here. My quick view cube allows me to very quickly manipulate my views, and something like this looks fine. And I'll pull out one more going in this axis. That's fine, but you know what, before I go any further, I do want to go ahead and make this guy parallel to one of these edges. And that's awesome. So we also have 3D relate tools. What do you think? I'm going to go ahead with here, put in a new line. I might say, you know what, I want to oh, where'd my triad go? There he is. Let's bring him down here so I can see him. There we go, that's awesome. Turn him around, press my Z, and sure enough, away I can go. I'm going to put this like at 10, and you know what, I'll come up 10, and I'll come over again, but this time, let's see, I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to make him go this direction. I'm going to make him come out, and I'm going to make him come out so that he goes all the way to this key point. Alright, well that's pretty good. I might want to do just a little bit of adjustment. I'll grab this guy and pull him over a little bit. And that looks fine. Everything looks good. And what I might wish to do is that I might wish to go ahead and put some fillets in here. Let's see, a good fillet right here might be around 3. Between here and here, and also also, maybe what we'll do is up here we'll change it up again. I'll make this about a 5mm radius. Looks pretty good. So at this point I probably need to create something to sweep from. And sure enough, I can come over here to the endpoint and I can start pulling out a circle, but how do I know that it's in the right orientation? Maybe what I should do is I should grab that triad right up here and bring him down here and let him do this work for me, because I know that I can press the letter X and I can choose a plane about which to make this circle. So this plane, he probably needs to be around, or I should say this circle probably needs to be around 3mm. And that looks good. And what I'll do is that I'll hit a close and return. Actually, no, I won't. What I'll do is I'll reach over here to my home and choose a sweep. And within the sweep, I'll say all those look great. I'll use this as my path, and I'll use this guy right here as my swept. And then what I'll do is I'll say, you know what, that looks pretty good, but what I probably need to end up doing is I probably need to mirror him. So I'll go ahead and finish on that guy, and don't need to see my 3D sketch anymore, but I will need to go ahead and grab my protrusion, and my protrusion probably needs to be something like that. So that looks pretty good. I might need to do a little bit of adjustment, but it's not bad. Oh, I can see a little bit. You know, one neat thing about the synchronous is that you can reach into an assembly and say, you know what, that guy right there, he really ought to be tangent to, not that fellow, but that fellow. Oh, let me try it again. Tangent here, check him off, and then choose the correct plane. And sure enough, the adjustments happen. So, pretty cool stuff. Well, with that said, that looks good. And what I would like to do is I'd probably like to go ahead and do a quick close and return. And now I'm inside my sub-assembly. And if I wanted to check out how well it does, I could probably reach in here and do a little drag component and say, you know what, both active and inactive, all that stuff looks good. How is this stuff going? Yep, it's going to do what we want it to do. Awesome. So, with that said, let's go ahead and let's do a quick show all, and we can see how our new addition has made it into the design. I can see a little bit of issue right there. Let's go ahead and let's use some of our synchronous tools in order to fix that. I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to say, you know what, I see all that stuff right there, and what I'd really like for that to do is I'd really like for that stuff to come in some. And sure enough, what we can do with inside synchronous, the beauty of the synchronous, is make adjustments anytime that we want. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and let's close this guy out. Pretty neat. Don't have to use him for right now. I might save him again for another one. And from there, well, let me take you all the way from a deep fryer to a bulldozer engine. In this bulldozer engine, I have the opportunity to show you duplicate components. Duplicate components inside large assemblies can sometimes be very difficult and time-consuming. But with ST7, we have this new tool. It's called duplicate components up here. So let's take a look and see where we're going to go. Well, here's a mounting bracket assembly with some parts that go with it, and I see some stuff in the background that it needs to go to also, and I'm also missing a piece right here. So what am I going to do? Well, I do know that this mounting bracket needs to go on over. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, that's him, and I'll do a Control-C, and then I'll move this guy over and do a Control-V, and because previously somebody had capture fit this before, I get to take advantage of their efforts. So I need to put it right here, and I'll also need to put on this hole and this hole. If you haven't used capture fit before, then please contact me and let me show you how to take advantage of this tool. It's actually old technology. So I also need this bolt, and I need the washer underneath. You know what? There's 3 more of those things. So let's go ahead and let's do a select all identical components. That's pretty cool. That's old tech too, but wow, I still get amazed at it. Let's see. I also want to grab this subassembly here, a few more mounting components. Man, I got to get those things all the way to the other side. How am I going to do that? There's no capture fit on those guys. Maybe I'll just use my duplicate components. Did you see the little video that happened in there? Maybe I'll move over it again. Ah, there he is. Tooltips, our new enhanced ones. They're great. So I'm going to use this as a reference part, and I'll use this as a reference part, and look at that. That's pretty darn cool. What about those 2 guys in the back? They don't look like they're any part of a pattern. As a matter of fact, they have different orientations. Well, that's what this button is for. Select all matching occurrences. Look at that. That is amazing. That saved me 15 minutes worth of work. Let's see. What can I do now? Oh, you know what? I need to show you fixed length curves. So I know that I need to go. Let's see. Where's he at? He is sitting right there. And let's do. Not that. Let's see. I don't think that's it either. Let's turn this guy around. Maybe. Oh, let's do this. Alright, so in this case here, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and do an open on him. So I'll do a quick open on this guy. Specifically, I didn't get the right one, but, oh, here he is right here. Let's open him instead. Alright, so now I'm where I need to be. This fellow right here, he has a tube, and this tube is indicative of what a lot of people have dealt with, in that we can make our tubes just fine because we use a spline, but if we were to move any of the ports, we run the risk of our tube length changing, and you and I both know that that can't really happen. Our tube lengths need to stay fixed. So how are we going to do this? Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll double click into this fellow right here, and I'll also let's see, check him off and see if I can't get into this guy. There we go. And I also need to get into the path. So do a little edit definition on that path. Now I could stretch this tube at any moment, and the tube would update and all that would be great, but I don't want it to. I need it to stay the same length. Now under our new spline command is now curve length step. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it and say I need for you to stay to the same length, and 368 probably is not what I want, so I'm going to put in 370. Hit enter and finish, and now that length will stay the same no matter what I do. So if I were to come back in here and do a little bit of face selection, and I'll grab all these components here and possibly do a little rotate on them. There we go. I'm going to grab this guy and do a little rotate, and of course the tube updates, but look how it updates. It's not changing length, it's changing positions. That's pretty darn cool. So I'll go ahead and leave him there. That's going to be so awesome to employ that. Let's go ahead and I'm going to close out of my express route. I'm satisfied with that, and what I would like to do is I'd like to throw a little render on this stuff. So rendering inside Solid Edge is new because we now have KeyShot. KeyShot does some really quick renders. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's see if I like my positions here. This is a good position, I think. I'm going to go ahead and hit my KeyShot render, and it's going to crank up KeyShot. KeyShot now comes with both classic and it comes with premium packages. So what can I do with it? Well, obviously I can grab in some paint and I'll throw that paint on there. Maybe before I start rendering too much, let me zoom in a little bit. And we'll also pan over a tad. There we go. maybe I want some black paint. I'm going to throw that on there. And let's see, let's grab this guy right over here. Maybe put a little bit of metal on that, and the hose probably needs to be red too. So as KeyShot renders, you notice that it renders really quickly and gives us some deep satisfaction. Now the problem with this is that most of you engineers are like me, and you really don't want to be part of the marketing department. So be careful. If your supervisors find out, then you may be requested to make many different renders. That looks great. You can save it out as an, I think it has animation capabilities as well as saving out as .bip files and other types of render files. Also, look, you can adjust how many cores that you want to deal with, which I think is kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and throw this guy away. I don't need him right now. And from here, let's move on to a different topic. Go ahead and close this fellow, and I'll also close here, and because I had opened everything up. And then I'll also close, lastly close here. So what's more fun than playing with bulldozer engines? How about playing with helicopters? In this next demo, we're going to use a helicopter frame in order to show you the new tools inside Solid Edge ST7, like flatten anything and also creating sheet metal from parts. So as this guy loads in, he's almost finished. There he goes. As he loads in, I need to be thinking about how is it that I can satisfy the needs to creating a bracket here that's very, how could I say, adapted to the actual avionics of the part. In other words, it needs to be light. It doesn't need to be a big welded plate. How about let's use some sheet metal? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this guy over to my frame assembly, and that's going to shorten up my part. Well, I should have shortened it up to begin with, but anyway, here we are now. And I would like to create a new part. I'm going to create a brand new part, and this guy, I like all my options as they are. I definitely need to have steel, and I'm going to ground him, and you know what, I'm going to also say, hey, I'd like to find midpoints on this. So as I move my triad over this plate right here, it does orient, and as I move over, it will find the midpoint. I need to make sure I got the right midpoint. There we go. So that looks great. I'm going to go ahead and click and say, yep, let's create this part. We'll make him number 36. Save it, and now I'm ready to start modeling. Well, I could do this inside sheet metal to begin with, but trying to find out all those flanges could be a little bit tough. So I'll use our new box command, and using the box command, what I'll say is I'll use my 2 points, and I'm going to definitely go ahead and lock him into this plane. And make sure I got my peer locate turned on. Sure enough, it's on. And as I move over, I should be able to find some awesome key points. There they are. That's one. And with peer locate turned on, as I zoom up, I can actually use bits of geometry from elsewhere inside the part. So I like that key point, and I'm going to go ahead and give him a depth, and I'll use the depth of that circle. That looks awesome. So using our synchronous commands, I'm going to go ahead and put some shape to this block, because it can't just be like this. And he needs to go down about, I think he should be around 40 degrees. That looks pretty good. Well, oh, you know what? On the other side, this guy right here has to match up so he can be welded correctly. Let me go ahead and deselect him, and I know that I need to do a coincidental relationship, or I should say a coplanar relationship, between this face and this face. And sure enough, it happens just as we planned it. From here, I'd like to do a little bit of drawing, or I should say I'm going to do a project to sketch. I'm going to choose this plane, and we'll go ahead and we'll lock him in. And I know that I need that fellow right there. He's going to give me what I need in order to do a neat extrude from a single and make sure that he's a removal. And I'm going to grab him and say, yes, that's what I want. And this side, and I'll go ahead and chop off a little bit on top. That looks pretty good. Well, I don't need to see what's behind it at this moment, so I'm going to go ahead and put all that stuff away so I can see a little better. And I know that I need to add in a little bit more. I know that I need to cut out some in the middle. I'm going to use my cylinder command so that I can very quickly create a cylinder. I'm going to make this guy about 40, and I'll go ahead and I'll push him through, but I don't want him to be a solid, so I'll go ahead and make sure that he says remove, and that's good. I like that. I might want to go ahead and add in some dimensions. I'll do a dimension from here. Actually, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. By the way, if you pick an edge and then pick what you want, then inside ST7, the dot will always be from the very first pick, which is cool. So he needs to be about 35, and I know that I need to go from here to here, and this will also be around 35. Awesome. I need to break these top faces though. How am I going to do that? I'm going to use a project to sketch, and I do like that face, but I don't like that orientation. Go ahead and lock him in, and in my project to sketch, I'll make sure that he's offset. So here we go. Check him off. He's going to ask me how deep this needs to be, but obviously it's not going to be 0.5 millimeters. So let's try 15. That looks good. And I also want to do this fellow over here, and I'll project him. So I know I also need one up here, but first let's handle this fellow. I can grab him and just move him on up here until he touches, and that's kind of cool. I could have probably used a connect, but sometimes just grabbing the endpoint on here just works just as well. Alright, well, lastly I got to put that line up top, and I'll choose this face and get rid of that old plane. This plane looks great, and I'll go from this key point all the way over. Do take notice of my sketching tools. Notice not only can I get the length, but I can also get the angle. So as I go to pull him over, he recognizes, and there he is. You know what, just to be safe, I'm going to say, you know what, I want you to be parallel to this guy, and he is. So now I'm ready to break these faces so that I can go ahead and switch them over to sheet metal. I want to reach back over here under my home and grab this face, and I'm going to push him in. All I'm doing is just taking that region and giving it just a tad bit of depth, not a lot. There we go. And let's grab this fellow and do the same, and that looks good. So at this point, believe it or not, the tool that creates solids from sheet metal, he's over here inside ordered. Solid Edge recognizes the need to have both ordered and synchronous. So this tool is in ordered. I'm going to click switch to sheet metal. My bend radius is good at 3. I like that. My gap is good. I think I'm good to go. I'll go ahead and click OK. And now it's asking me for bends. I know that there's going to be a bend here, and I also know that it needs to go to the inside. There will be a bend here. There's going to be one here. One more. Another. And lastly, one more. So with that said, I think it's good. I'm going to go ahead and right hand click to accept it and take a look at what I've got. Wow. I cannot even imagine trying to do that by one flange at a time. So with this done, I think we're ready to, you know what, we need some bolt holes, right? So under view, let's turn our previous assembly back on, and we need to add in some holes. Yep, we almost forgot about it. What's cool is that inside ST7 we now have our new 3D measure, or I should say just about a combination of every measurement that you ever wanted. So as I go ahead and I click on this, what I have turned on, I have it turned on by default, but this is my new measurement. It's like a palette, and it records everything that I click on. So as I'm looking at this, I know that I need to do a measurement from, let's see, from here, we'll choose from here to here, and that looks good. And look, it put it all right here. Yes, I have the measurements there on the screen, but it's got them all here. And I can even tell that my diameters on these are 6 millimeters. That's awesome. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's close this guy out, and we can leave all this stuff here. I can now reach over here under my home, grab a hole, and introduce the new hole commands. So as the hole command comes up, we see it's now enhanced. The enhancement is that we now have the ability to deal with clearance holes. In this case, I know I don't need an ANSI inch. I would love to have an ANSI metric. And under my ANSI metric, it says right now my hole is at an M16, but my hole, or I should say the bolt that I had was an M6. So let's choose an M6, and I want a clearance hole of normal. So what's cool is that I now know that my clearance hole really ought to be a 6.6 millimeters. That's cool. No longer do I have to look it up. No longer do I have to have a sheet of paper with all that stuff on it. I'm going to go ahead with OK on this, and I'm going to put that hole on this plane. And as I go to drop it in, I can just find the center of the hole and drop that in there. Right hand click, and should be able to check him off and drop that hole in. So with one hole in, it shouldn't be that too difficult to go ahead and pattern the rest. So I'll choose that hole, and I'll choose pattern, and I know that that pattern needs to be here. And let's see, this pattern should be a rectangular pattern, and I know that the first point should be right there. The second point is right there. And I know that this is right now a 2x2 pattern, which is good. That's what I want. Check it off, and now I have 4 holes. Very cool. And I don't need this guy anymore. So coming out of this part, I might even, you know what, we really ought to go back into the part, and just so that you can see it, just so that you can tell that we're telling the truth here. Let's take this fellow. What do you think we ought to do with it? Under Tools, let's see, let's do Flatten, choose a face, choose an edge, and sure enough, we have a flat pattern, which is really cool. All right, well, enough with that. Let's go back, put him back in the spot, close this guy back up. And now what I'd like to do is, I know that I've got a few more things to do with this helicopter here. Ooh, yes, do you see this cowl right here? This cowl itself is pretty darn complex. As a matter of fact, let's double click into him and let's take a look at him. Wow, you know, that's going to take some engineering. Not only that, but we need to form this part. What in the world would be the correct flat pattern? And high-end CAD programs, this is often an extra purchase. Inside Solid Edge ST7, we now find ourselves, let's see, let's go over here to Tools. Let's transform this guy to a, actually let's don't do it that way. Let's go and make him into a piece of sheet metal. And then under Tools, we'll choose Flatten, and we'll choose us a nice, we want the entire body. And because it is a formed body, it understands that it needs to be a blank body, and I'll choose this direction. Now under our options here, we do have the ability to change things like strain hardening components, and we can set up alarms if we need to. I can now choose how accurate that I want this flat to be. Notice that you can go all the way down to fine. The way that this does this is through triangulation, And the lower the number, the faster it'll go. Let's take this guy and let's do a 3, and I'll do a quick preview. And as it goes, it's crunching numbers and crunching numbers, and sure enough, I think it's about done. There it is, and it's even telling us how much of the surface area is there. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and this looks great. I'm going to go ahead and choose Finish, and this is our blank. That is the blank from that formed piece of sheet metal. Guys, it just gives you the heebie-jeebies to know that a mid-range modeler can actually do this type of engineering. This is awesome stuff. Anyway, let's go back over to our part. As he switches back over, do a quick close and return, and now he's done. That was awesome. You know, if you're in the furniture industry, you could use that same thing to get fabric flat patterns. In this case, however, I kind of want to get to what's underneath the seat. I've got a piece of sheet metal here that needs a little bit of extra help. I'm going to double click into him. Actually, I think he's just a part. He's just a part copy. He was brought in from someplace else. So with that said, what do we do to parts that come in from someplace else? What we do is we make them intelligent. I'm going to use recognize holes on this, and already it's able to find holes. That's awesome. So with that done, hold on, I don't think it took. Recognize holes. Oh, okay. I had to press OK. And now you'll see that we now have holes in our part. That's pretty cool. But you know what? In Solid Edge ST6, we had that. As a matter of fact, we had that in ST5. So what's new? Why not reach over here and do a recognize patterns? You're thinking, well, you had that in ST6. Well, yes, but we didn't have recognize patterns of patterns. So this is a new opportunity for us. Now we can actually go into our patterns and change them. We can change it from a circular to a rectangular. I think it's good as circular on this one. Let's see, that is pattern number 2. I'm going to go ahead and choose OK. That looks awesome. And I probably need to, there's pattern number 2 right there. So that's pattern number 2. And this is pattern number 3. And let's see. I think I'm after pattern number 1. So right now, pattern number 1 is a 2x2. Well, isn't it cool that you can now come in here and say, well, that really, we need a little bit more ventilation here. How about a 3 by a 3? Check him off. And now we've recognized not only holes and not only patterns, but patterns of patterns. Do a quick close and return. And I think I've just about covered everything that we need to deal with inside Solid Edge ST7. What's new? So with that said, what else do we need to cover? Oh, we need to cover some draft. Close this guy out. Okay, so let's finish out this session with drafting. Drafting is definitely not to be ignored inside Solid Edge ST7. The new improvements inside ST7 drafting are quite a bit of time saving. So I've got a new sheet up here, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to add in some views. And I don't see the model that I want here, so I'm just going to reach up here and grab the one that I desire, and I'll pull him in. Notice that the views are dynamic, and with the scroll wheel I can change scale. So I'm going to put one right here, and I'll put one right here also. And you know what? I need to pull in an isometric to boot. I'll pull this guy over to here, make him look nice, and then let's clean up this drawing. You know, we need some dimensions. I want to do a retrieve dimension, and sure enough, that came in nicely. I'll do a retrieve dimension on this guy. He came in pretty well too. But you know what? They really need to be arranged. They really need to be cleaned up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this view, check him off. That turned out pretty well. Choose this view, check him off, and they get lined up pretty well too. So not only that, oh, you know what? That guy right there, he wanted to be ornery. He wanted to get out there. So I'm going to pull him out to here, and you know, we need a detail view. So I'm going to reach up here under detail, and I will pull myself out a nice little circle here and place. Very nice. And of course, as always, you know, our detail views are dynamic, so I can pull him out at any time and look at any one area that I need to have. And of course, you know, as with all dimensions, if it's right here, it should also be correct over here too. And that's cool. You know what else I need to show on this? I probably need to show my datums. Yeah. So I'm going to click on my datum frame, and I'm going to add a datum frame over here and drop him in. And of course, you know, the text probably needs to be an A for this, not a lowercase a, but an uppercase A. So that's good. And let's see. Let's take, I don't think my text took. So there we go. Click OK. And now we have our A there. What about geometric dimensioning and tolerancing? I'm not that great at it, but it's a crucial skill. So let's go ahead and let's add in a control frame. Let's see. In this control frame, looks like I already have a reference in here. That's from what I had previous. Let's do this again. I'm going to add in a material condition and put myself a divider. I probably want to go ahead and add in a reference set. Look, there's the letter A. What this allows me to do is that this allows me to put in that reference letter into this control frame. From here, I might want to add in parallelism, and let's see, I probably want to add in a little bit of extra tolerance, so I'm going to put in 0.0500. There we go. Go ahead and click OK, and I'll place this guy here, and there we go. So why is this cool? Because if you have to do a lot of these, then what happens if I need to double click into here and change out my datum? Maybe I want this to be a B. Now my geometric dimensioning and tolerancing frames are updated. This is going to save an immense amount of time. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's grab over here on sheet 2. Well, what about sheet 2? Well, with this view, let's take a look at the bill of material. I'm going to double click into my bill of material, and what's nice to know, not by default, but because I last left it this way, is that as I move over individual rows, it will highlight the actual part. Now, how does that work? If I were to right-hand click in this top glyph up here, notice I have both highlight and thumbnails. I'll turn off thumbnails for now and let you just see the highlight. So as I move over, it will highlight the parts on my view, which is pretty cool. Not only that, but if I were to highlight multiples, it'll highlight multiple parts. That's pretty awesome. Let's see. I don't want to do that one, but let's do this one. Does this part look familiar? Let's do coordinate systems off of this. So I need to do some coordinate systems. I'm going to grab, you know what? I'll grab my automatic coordinate systems, and I'll say, you know what? I want only the center points or circles. So I'm going to grab from here to here and check them off. And it's going to ask me for a common origin element. I'm going to choose from here, and I can pull all the way down to here and drop them all in one shot. So, what's cool about this? What if I were to grab, say this fellow, and try to move him? Well, he drops into, there we go, he goes back into place. Let's do a little bit of a control move over here. That's cool. Look at my jogs. my jogs automatically replace. So what that means is I can now grab this fellow, pull him over here, and I don't have to do all the manual adjustments. That's power, and it saves a ton of time. So, hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen, and with that, I'll turn this back over to Kevin.